Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating look at how everyday people are building passive income. We're using tools and platforms that are, readily available.
Yeah, and we're drawing directly from the 20-minute Side Hustle podcast, specifically there from Ramen to Riches episode. Some great real-world examples in there.
Exactly. So our goal really is to cut through all the noise, pull out the most surprising bits, the insights, and crucially, those actionable steps that might just help you, the listener, create your own income streams.
And what's really striking, I think, is how technology has just opened this whole thing up. It's not just about having loads of capital anymore, is it?
No, not at all.
The podcast really highlights how, a bit of creativity, maybe some smart tech use, well, it's really changing the game for ordinary people.
Okay, so let's dive right into the first one then, the AI author.
Right.
Picture this, a fifth grade teacher. She's bringing in, get this, a cool $12,000 every single month.
Wow, 12 grand.
Yeah. And the twist, she's selling children's books that, well, she didn't exactly sit down and write or illustrate in the traditional sense. This is where it gets really interesting.
It really shows the power of spotting a specific need, doesn't it? And then finding these, innovative ways to meet it using the tools that are just out there now.
So the podcast breaks down her system. Sarah Kay, they called her. And it's basically a three-step system. Surprisingly simple, actually.
Yeah, it is. Step one, they said, is all about the niche, niching down.
And they really hammered this point home. Get hyper-specific. The example they gave is just brilliant. The Python who loved ballet.
I mean, yeah. Who else is writing that? That specificity is so smart. It just cuts through the noise, cuts down competition, lets you focus on a very, very particular group.
Exactly. Think about the curiosity factor with a title like that.
Right. It's not just picking animals or ballet. It's that weird specific overlap. You got to think about those underserved micro communities or problems people are searching for, but just not finding the right thing.
Okay, so that's the niche. Then step two, the tech she uses. And this is where it gets really accessible, I thought.
Totally. We're talking ChatGPT for actually, crafting the stories, getting the words down.
Right.
Then Midjourney for generating the illustrations.
Which can produce some amazing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then Canva, which loads of people already know, for putting it all together. The layout, the formatting.
And the cost, this blew my mind. About $3 per book.
$3. It's pretty incredible. It just completely bypasses that traditional hurdle of hiring writers, illustrators, which used to cost a fortune.
Yeah, a huge barrier gone. And these tools, they're getting easier to use all the time.
Definitely.
Okay, so step three is distribution. How does she get these books out there?
Well, she's not just putting all her eggs in one basket. She's using Amazon KDP, for the print-on-demand physical books.
Okay, the standard route.
Yeah, but also Etsy for selling PDF versions, tapping into that digital download market.
Smart. Instant delivery.
Exactly. And even using Fiverr for custom orders, maybe personalized versions.
Wow, covering all the bases there. Print, digital, custom.
That multi-platform approach just makes sense. Reaches different people, different needs. Someone wants a physical gift. Someone wants a digital copy for the iPad on a trip.
Makes sense. But here's the pro tip that really jumped out at me from the podcast. Her market research method.
Oh, yeah, the Facebook groups.
Yes. Apparently she tests her book ideas in these Facebook mom groups. And get this, if people actually complain that the price is too high, that's her signal.
Yeah.
That she's probably onto a winning niche.
That's so counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think complaints are bad.
Right.
But it's actually quite insightful. It's just there's strong demand, a real unmet need in that specific group. And maybe they're less price sensitive because they just can't find that exact thing anywhere else.
Fascinating. So the big takeaway here really is that these AI tools have democratized things. Even if you're not a writer or an illustrator in the traditional sense, you can still create and, crucially, make money from something like children's books.
Yeah, it's about identifying those very specific needs and just leveraging the tech that's available.
Okay, so moving on from AI authors, the next one sounds almost too good to be true. The automated meme empire.
Yeah, it does sound a bit wild. But the podcast featured this 22-year-old who's supposedly pulling in $8,000 a month.
$8,000, okay.
And wait for it, apparently spending only about 1 hour per week on the whole thing.
1 hour a week. Okay, right. We need to know the secrets. What is the magic behind this meme machine?
Well, the core of it, according to the podcast, is automation, just automating almost everything.
How?
So for actually creating the content, the memes themselves, they're using ChatGPT, probably for joke ideas, captions, that sort of thing.
Okay, AI for the humor.
And then CapCut, which is, a video editing app, but they're using it to automatically edit meme templates. So plugging the jokes into standard formats, maybe.
Streamlining the creation. So it's not just endless scrolling and reposting found stuff.
Hmm.
There's tech involved in making it.
Right. And then getting them out there, that's automated too.
How's that work?
They mentioned using a tool called Publer. It schedules all the content across 6 different accounts, apparently.
That counts. Okay.
Yeah, so that automated posting is key. It keeps that constant presence without them having to manually upload stuff all day.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But all right, the big question, where is that $8,000 a month actually coming from? It can't just be likes.
No, definitely not. They broke it down into 3 main streams. First, affiliate links. They gave an example, like maybe a meme about design, and then a little note saying, this meme made with Canva with their affiliate link. So they get a kickback if someone signs up.
Gotcha. Standard affiliate marketing, but applied to memes. What else?
Second, sponsored posts. Brands paying to have their message put into a meme format on these popular pages. They mentioned figures around like $500 per post.
$500 for a meme.
Wow.
If the audience is right, I guess.
Exactly. If it's a targeted niche audience, brands will pay. And third, this was a real interesting one, an upsell service.
Okay.
Something called Meme Your Pet on Etsy.
Meme your pet. That's brilliant. People love their pets.
Totally. It's a great example of taking that core meme thing and then expanding it into a related sellable service. Very clever.
Super clever. But the podcast also mentioned this wasn't like an overnight success story, right?
Oh, definitely not. That was a key point. The
Mhm.
creator apparently tried and failed in 8 different niches before finding success.
8 failures.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, before hitting on this specific formula of niche memes for S, and the example they gave was like accountant memes.
Accountant memes. Okay, that is specific. So what do you think made the difference between the failures and that breakthrough? Was it just how niche it was?
I think that has to be a huge part of it. Finding that truly targeted, passionate audience that feels understood by the humor, plus the automation aspect probably allowed them to test niches faster.
Right, you can churn out content for different niches more easily if it's automated. So the main lesson here is find a really specific group, automate the heck out of content creation and posting, and then you've got potential for significant income with maybe surprisingly little ongoing time.
Yeah, it's about being strategic, efficient, and really understanding that niche audience.
Okay, strategic, inefficient. Got it. Now let's switch gears a bit. The podcast talked about the host's personal favorite passive stream, something they call digital rental properties.
Right. And just to be clear, we're not talking about actual houses or apartments here.
No real estate headaches. This is about creating digital assets that can generate income over time, kind of like rent, but without, tenants and leaky roofs.
Exactly. And the podcast outlined 3 different models for this, which I thought was helpful.
Yeah, me too. This whole concept really grabbed my attention. Let's start with the first one, Notion templates.
Okay, so Notion, for anyone who doesn't use it, it's like a super flexible productivity note-taking database kind of tool. Really powerful.
So what's the opportunity there?
Well, the idea is you create these reusable digital templates within Notion, things that solve a specific problem or help people organize something. The example they gave was a viral LinkedIn content calendar template.
Okay. Something practical people need.
Exactly. And once you've built that template, you can sell it potentially thousands of times. It becomes this digital product that brings in income with pretty minimal upkeep once it's made.
It really is like creating something once and then just letting it work for you, isn't it?
Oh.
Okay, what was the second model? Stock footage?
Yeah, stock footage. This one might feel a little less passive up front because you do have to, go out and film stuff.
Right, there's initial effort.
But the idea is to capture very specific niche video clips. Things that businesses or creators need but might find hard or expensive to produce themselves. The example used was AI robot hands typing.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty specific. I can see how finding that exact clip might be tricky.
Right, so you film these niche clips, upload them to stock footage platforms like Pond5 or others, and then they can be licensed by multiple buyers over and over again. So that initial creative work turns into a passive income stream.
Interesting, thinking about those really specific visual needs. Okay, and the third model, microsauce. That sounds a bit more techie.
It can be, but maybe less than you'd think. SaaS is software as a service. Microsoft is basically creating very small, focused, often subscription-based software tools.
So not like building a whole giant software suite.
Exactly. Think small, targeted solutions. The example they gave was an Instagram hashtag generator. Something simple that solves one specific problem for, say, social media managers or influencers.
Okay, and how does that generate passive income?
Usually through a subscription model. They mentioned pricing like $5 to $20 a month, maybe hosted on platforms like Gumroad or their own site. That recurring revenue is the key passive element.
Right, that monthly subscription adds up. Okay, so Notion templates, stock footage, microsauce. And this led to what the podcast called the host's confession, which I have to say was pretty compelling.
Yeah, that was a good bit. They mentioned personally making, what was it, $37,000?
$37,000
Sure.
from a single Canva template.
Just one template. They were a bit mysterious about the exact niche, just hinted at it.
Yeah, kept us guessing. But it really drives home the potential, doesn't it? Even from relatively simple digital products.
Absolutely. That story just highlights the scalability. Create once, sell potentially thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times. It's a powerful concept. You don't need some huge, complex invention.
So the big point for this whole digital rental property section is these digital assets, templates, clips, small tools, they offer a really solid path to passive income. Do the work up front to create something valuable.
Right, something that meets a real need.
And then it can potentially keep bringing in revenue without you constantly having to trade your time for money.
Exactly. It's about packaging your skills or knowledge into a digital format that people will pay for again and again.
All right. So we've covered some really, really interesting ground here. AI books, meme empires, digital rentals, lots of ideas. Now, the important part, what can you, listening right now, actually do with this?
Yeah, let's talk next steps. The podcast had this great call to action, a steal this challenge, and we're totally echoing that.
Love it.
The idea is pick one of these models, just one. AI books, automated memes, digital rentals, whichever one sparks something for you. And then just dedicate the next, say, 48 hours to validating the idea.
Not building the whole thing, just validating.
Exactly. Do some quick research. Is there actually a market for your niche idea? Does the demand seem real? Just start brainstorming, see if it has legs.
And to help with that, the podcast mentioned they have a Side Hustle Stack PDF,
Yeah.
supposedly full of tools, resources, stuff relevant to these ideas.
Yeah. They gave the URL as URL. Definitely worth checking out. Sounds like it could give you a good starting point for tools and platforms.
We recommend grabbing that if you're serious. And one more thing from the podcast for accountability.
Ah, yes, the DM challenge. They encourage listeners to DM their handle at Side Hustle Secrets. Share what you're working on, your progress.
Yeah. And honestly, we'd love to hear from you too. Maybe it sparks an idea for a future deep dive we could do. Accountability helps, right?
It really does. Makes it more real.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into building passive income streams, drawing from those podcast examples, here's maybe one final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
What specific skills or knowledge or even just interests do you already possess right now? Things you know, things you can do, things you enjoy talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Could any of that be packaged up, turned into a digital template, an automated content stream, a little tool, maybe even an AI-assisted book? Think about it. Your existing expertise might be the key.
That's a great prompt. What assets do you already have? Just maybe not in a digital sellable format yet. Food for thought.
Definitely. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for diving deep with us.